Hey guys, Zulkaris here and welcome back to Messing Around with Zulk. Yes, this is another episode of Messing Around with Zulk, and before I start I want to say something real quick. I watched my last video back and I don't know why, but it sounds like my voice is auto-tuned. Like every time I'm about to speak or even when I breathe heavily, uh, it feels like the video is playing some very muffled note in the background, like my voice is being vocoded in a weird way, vocoded, auto-tuned, whatever, in a weird way, and I don't know what's causing that. Is it my new microphone? It could be. It could also be the filter I've added, because like I said, I think I mentioned it while playing TNT Devolution that I had to add an external filter to Windows not filter, external audio software to Windows, because my headphones had their sound channels flipped. So I had to fix that. That is the only thing I can think of that's causing this auto tune thing. And I am sorry if you find it annoying. I know I did. But I have zero idea of how to fix it. So, yeah. Until it fixes itself, we are stuck with auto tune, Zulk. Unfortunately. Well, in the meantime, I am still a bit sick and I'm still suffering from kind of Doom fatigue. Well, not really. I'm playing a Doom in the background. I'm playing Doom on my own time. But in the meantime, before I start another Doom series or whatever, I have been wanting to react to this video by Arlen Trick for a while now. The Forgotten Classes of D&D. One sec, I am still sick. I need to clean my nose for a bit. Be right back. Alright, now that's better. As I was saying, this video by Arlen Trick, The Forgotten Classes of D&D. And before you ask, no, I'm not sure what he's talking about. I haven't watched this video yet. I wanted to do a reaction to this video specifically, just to see what these Forgotten Classes of D&D are, because I am always kinda curious about older editions of D&D. I am kind of an expert with the 2014 rules of 5e, not so much the 2024 rules. I read them. I did not like them. I want to stick to 2014 5e, and but I don't have much knowledge about this stuff that happened before that. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna learn something this video. And another thing I'm gonna do, as someone who does multi-classing a lot, I am gonna hear him talk about these forgotten classes, and I will give you some suggestions on how you may bring a similar kind of vibe to your 5e 2014 game without homebrew and with just judicious use of multi-classing. Alright, let's go.
I've been feeling pretty nostalgic lately. And although that probably stems from the fact that I'm terrified of aging and I'm just clinging to these memories in hopes of reversing the aging process, I've been doing a deep dive over all of my D&D characters that I've ever created or played as. And what I've found is, over the years, I've pretty much played as every single modern D&D class available, and I have a yearning for more. I've been the heroic fighter, the sneaky rogue, the not sneaky rogue, an octopus, and despite what you might believe, a ranger multiple times. And yet, every now and then I find myself scratching my poorly maintained beard and asking myself, why aren't there more options? Because back in the day, there were more.
I didn't know there were more options. I always thought there were less options back in the day. So this is already news to me. Also, he's not the only one with a poorly maintained beard. Because I got sick, I haven't like shaved in 2 weeks. So yeah, I have a very ugly neck beard right now. I should shave it as soon as I'm feeling a bit better. It is winter right now, so I am kinda scared of the cold water. Yes, Bangladesh is mainly a hotter country, so we don't usually have hot water coming out the taps. So I'm kinda scared of using cold water to shave. But yeah, I'll get around to it in like a day or two.
Way more, in fact. Dozens of classes that probably should have never existed, and plenty more that should have been maintained into modern editions of D&D. So dust off your spellbooks, warm up your things that require warmth, and let's dive straight into it. 4th edition was a weird and forgettable time for D&D, but it did unearth a truly undervalued class need. A martial leader who could rally allies, direct attacks, or literally shout you back to your feet when you went down.
Oh,
But
that
instead of
sounds
waving
cool. a
holy symbol or strumming a lute, the warlord did it with their pure command presence. Their signature ability, for example, Inspiring Word, could heal allies with motivational yelling.
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom.
That's right, no magic, just good old-fashioned get up soldier or I'll kill you myself type energy. They could do things like grant allies extra attacks or reposition them on the battlefield to turn a losing fight into a comeback through sheer coordination. Picture someone like Braveheart, but with more tactically orientated military prowess.
All we need to win are the fellas in this room right now. And all
Was
you-
that a Discord ping? I've closed Discord. Must have been the video itself.
And that's just the kind of thing that D&D today doesn't really have. A true non-magical support class. Sure, bards and fighters can command people with a few maneuvers, but the warlord's entire build was about leadership, as they were the person that makes everyone else around them better. And when playing as them, you didn't have to deal damage to feel powerful, because instead you just made the whole party pretty much unstoppable. The shaman has been haunting D&D.
Okay, so the Warlord. I actually have a version of this. I know I said I'm not gonna dive into homebrew, but let me show you guys. I need to open Discord for this, and I don't want to accidentally leak private messages. Like, I personally don't have much to hide, but I don't want to violate the privacy and trust of everyone I message with. So I'm gonna pause right now, bring up Discord, and then copy my fighter subclass, my homebrew fighter subclass, into a text file and read off of that, okay? I'll be right back. Alright, so I've copied the contents to the text file. Now, fair warning, I think this has already become obvious by now because, again, I did say I'm going to talk about multi-classing mainly and how to do, like how to kind of get the vibes, general vibes of the classes being talked about based on this video in 5e using multi-classing instead of homebrew. I am going to do that, but I still want to show my take on the Warlord fighter. I actually did not know it existed. And well, I did kind of know it existed, but I didn't really know anything about it outside of the name. And that there was a support fighter, but nothing about what kind of vibes it had in 4th edition. 4th edition is probably the single edition that I have the absolute lowest amount of knowledge in. Like I know one or two things about 4th edition, but like it might as well be nothing. So I kind of just stumbled as backwards into the Warlord fighter when I was making this. I wasn't trying to remake Warlord. I was trying to like make a buffed alternate version of the Purple Dragon Knight, which is by far the worst fighter subclass in 5e. Also, in case it hasn't been obvious 7 minutes in, I probably should have given this disclaimer earlier, but yeah, this video is not for someone who has no idea what D&D is about. Like, if you're still enjoying the video so far, you are welcome to listen. You are welcome to watch it and listen, but a lot of things I will not explain in this video, and if you have any experience with 5e, you probably know what these things already are. And if you don't, then yeah, I'm sorry. So this is my homebrew fighter subclass. Fair warning, this is for a homebrew game where I am DMing, and the general power level of that game is a bit higher than standard D&D. This is true for both monsters and the players. My campaign kinda uses like Resident Evil 4 gameplay mechanics, well, not mechanics, Resident Evil 4 style gameplay, where the key aspect of the game, of my campaign, is resource management. Like, you can die 10 times, I think. And each of my players for both groups have died or almost died at least once each. And they've still kept playing, not with a new character, with the same character, because here death is not a lose condition. It is not a game over state. In my game, where this subclass was created for, death is just another like debuff or condition you have to deal with. I literally gave them homebrew potions they can buy that resurrects people from death. Kind of like how you do it in Night of Lodis, honestly. Honestly, Night of Lodis has been probably my biggest inspiration for combat design in this game. Night of Lodis and Doom. So, yeah, and the game does follow brutal Doom scaling, where you are dealing with monsters that would be borderline unfair in most normal D&D campaigns. But it's fine here because the players are also given abilities that are borderline unfair. Let me tell you what the most broken ability I have given a player character is in this game. They didn't ask for it. I, of my own free will, gave them this busted ass ability. I did not realize how busted it was when I gave it to them, but it's still, I did not retcon it because I felt like, yeah, I can work with this because that's the power level this game is dealing with. And one of my players has an ability called Deadly Adversary. What does it do? Nothing flashy. It's just a passive +1 to fucking everything except skills. +1 to saving throw, +1 to damage, +1 to hit, +1 to AC. That doesn't sound like much, but if you know anything about 5e bounded accuracy, you know how broken if just free +1 to everything is. So yeah, if you're a DM or a player and want to take this subclass, you should read it thoroughly and consider changing things here and there if you deem it necessary to adjust for normal play. Because again, these subclasses were made for this higher level scaling. So anyway, Man-at-Arms Fighter. This is the flavor text. Men-at-Arms are brave, battle-hardened warriors that lead and inspire others in battle. They inspire courage and action in others through actions, and they can lead and coordinate groups, turning a poorly equipped militia into a brutal warband. That's a mouthful, and that's probably not very clear. I am not very good with flavor text. The actual meat is in the mechanics. At level 3, the Man-at-Arms Fighter gets Persistent Warrior. You gain additional uses of Second Wind class feature. When you short rest, you regain all uses of Second Wind. At 3rd level, you have 2 uses of Second Wind. At 10th level, you have 3 uses. So you just have more Second Wind per Second Wind. Remember, I know that the 2024 fighter also has an ability similar to this as part of the base class, but this is for 2014 fighter. This does not count for 2024 rules, by the way, just to make it clear. And then Rallying Cry. Whenever you use your Second Wind feature, choose any number of creatures within 30 feet of you. They also regain HP equal to your Second Wind healing. So yeah, that's like a bigger, that's like a buffed version of Mass Cure Wound, a Mass Healing Word. That's like a buffed version of a 3rd level spell. Well, at level 3, for a non-spell casting class, that they can use twice per short rest. So yeah. And then at level 7 you have Wise Warrior. Choose one skill out of Persuasion, Insight, Intimidation, Deception, Survival and Animal Handling. You gain proficiency in that skill. You can also choose one of the above skills to gain expertise in. I should clarify, I think I didn't write this properly. If you already have one of these above skills, it should have been like, if you already have proficiency in one of the above skills, you can then choose them and gain expertise in it. So yeah, you can just gain expertise directly. Just making that clear. Number 10, Tactical Advantage. You have advantage on initiative rolls. Additionally, on the first turn of combat, your movement increases by 10 feet. Finally, 3 times per short rest, you can use your reaction to target an allied character within 90 feet. If that creature can see or hear you, they can immediately move up to half their movement speed without provoking AO. So this is just reaction to reposition. Nor this the actual usefulness of this ability depends greatly on if you are doing theater of the mind or if you're using a battle map. If your DM runs more tactical games, this can be a much more important ability. But if you're doing theater of the mind, I suggest just buffing this somehow, because this is not that good in terms of theater of the mind. Anyway, level 15, Inspiring Warrior. When you use your action surge, you can choose 2 allies within 60 feet of you that can see and hear you. Those allies can use their reactions to make a single weapon attack. Additionally, when you use the Indomitable class feature against a saving throw, you and your allies gain a plus 1d6 bonus against the same save. So yeah, that just makes you much better at saving throws, makes you a pseudo paladin at that point, and though it's limited use. And then level 18, Bulwark. Whenever you use your second wind, you and others you target with Rallying Cry also get temp HP equal to your second roll. While you have this temp HP, you have 6 damage reduction against all damage. This is kind of busted, because when I wrote this, I did not factor in how broken damage reduction is. I recommend dropping this to 3. But damage reduction itself is not a base D&D 5e mechanic. So let me explain what damage reduction is. Basically, when you take damage, this is a homebrew mechanic by the way in my campaign. When you take damage of a certain type, in this case it's all damage types, after applying resistances and stuff, you reduce the damage you take by 3. So, well, 3, it was 6 here, but I reduced it to 3. So yeah, this is very broken. I recommend dropping this to 3 or 4, maybe even 5 if you're really feeling it, but do not keep this as 6. Even at level 18, I think, like, actually hold on. If you are taking this whole scale, that 6 is fine. The reason I'm dropping it is because in my game, you can actually stack multiple sources of damage reduction. So if this is your only possible source of damage reduction, keep it at 6. Otherwise, drop it to 3. That is my advice to you. Anyway, that is the Man-at-Arms Fighter subclass, which is basically the Warlord, like Arlentric talked about. And now, I know he said it doesn't use spells, but there is no way I can think of to build a character like this in D&D 5e without spells. Here's how I think, so you will have to dip into spells, but here's how I think you should go. Let me just check some rules to make absolute sure. Alright, I smell nail polish for some reason. Anyway, I checked some rules. This is probably not a character you'd like to play, but like mechanically. But to get the Warlord vibe, you should absolutely take Inspiring Leader, the feat. Go Valor Bard. How many levels deep you wanna go there is up to how many spell slots you want. And you definitely want Purple Dragon Knight Fighter. I would personally recommend like 3 Bard and 2 Paladin and 15 Fighter. Oh, sorry, no, not 2 Paladin. I'm sorry. I'd recommend 3 Bard, 1 Warlock, and a 16 Fighter. If the Warlock is there, because you are going to be heavily reliant on charisma for this. So might as well take Hexblade so you can attack with charisma as well. But if you roll good enough and you don't need it, then maybe you can go deeper into Bard or Fighter. I don't recommend going level 5 Bard because then you lose extra attack from Fighter. They don't stack. So level 5 Fighter would just be a dead level at that point. So yeah, that is my advice on how to do a Warlord class. Excuse me, my throat hurts. But yeah, let's go to the next one. I spent way too much time on the Warlord.
Because instead, you just made the whole party pretty much unstoppable. The Shaman has been haunting D&D since its first edition, also existing in the second edition, third edition, and the fourth edition, but hasn't made its way to current D&D as of yet. And every single one of those previous editions were all built around the exact same kind of idea. A spiritual caster who communes with the unseen world instead of nature or the gods themselves. And it's been very consistent across every edition that the core of this class is very simple. They're not priests, and they're definitely not druids. Instead, they're a bridge between worlds and acts as a mediator between the living world and spirits. And as these mediators, they can call on their ancestors, totems, and ancient powers that predate civilization. Mechanically, the Shaman really started hitting its stride in 3rd and 4th edition as it became this version of a primal spellcaster, which pretty much allowed them to fight alongside a spirit companion which represented their bond to the spirit world. And this companion, whether it be a bear, eagle, panther, Ryan Gosling from Blade Runner 2049, could attack, heal, or channel spells on your behalf, making you feel like you were commanding the unseen forces of nature. And I just feel that that, again, is missing from modern D&D. Because druids lean into wild shape, clerics serve deities, warlocks have daddy issues, sorcerers are just naturally gifted wizards, and wizards are book nerds. And none of those connect the primal and spiritual world together. And especially for players who like role-playing or feeling very connected to their character, it's a playstyle that feels really deeply personal and doesn't really relate to any of the other ones I've just mentioned. Let's stay on the trend of talking about 4th edition and talk about one of the most
Yeah, for Shaman, I know he said Warlocks have daddy issues, but I think Warlock really is your best bet here. You just need to flavor it as less being a patron, like serving a patron, and more just a symbiotic relationship between a spirit and yourself. Maybe splice in some of that Phantom Rogue stuff as well. That might work here. So some levels of Phantom Rogue and Pact of the Chain Warlock actually. I don't know which subclass you want. Probably not Hexblade. Let's be honest. You probably don't want Hexblade. But I don't know which one. Take Pact of the Chain. Take invocations that fit the Shaman playstyle. Excuse me. You might want to splice in a bit of Ranger as well. Maybe 3 levels of Ranger in there as well. And not for spell casting, but mainly to go Swarm Keeper. So that way you can kind of flavor your Swarm to work that way. Alternatively, maybe you can do it with Artificer tree as well instead of Ranger tree. But I am not familiar enough with Artificer to make a judgment call on that. So yeah, if you want to reflavor a multi-class build as a Shaman, look into Warlock. Look into Warlock, splice in look into Warlock, Phantom Rogue, and maybe splice in some Ranger.
overlooked divine casters that was bestowed upon us in the talking about 4th edition and talk about one of
Invoker.
the most overlooked divine casters that was bestowed upon us in the Invoker. The easiest way to imagine an Invoker's entire aesthetic is just imagine a cleric who's read one too many Forbidden Scrolls and has gone, why do I have to pick one god? I'm going to channel all of them.
Whoa. That
The
sounds
Invoker
cool.
was a divine controller, which meant they specialized in shaping the battlefield with different radiant explosions or holy chains or other godly effects. Mechanically, they lean much more into spellcasting than paladins ever did, focusing on various range-based prayers and effects. But it was their lore and aesthetic that really made them stand out. Because unlike clerics who devote themselves to one single deity, invokers acted as the chosen conduits of an entire pantheon of gods. They didn't just serve a god, they embodied divine will. And just like the later stages of any Hades run, when an invoker walked into battle, it wasn't just one god answering the call, it was an entire celestial board meeting, in which no one's mics were kept on mute. And the aesthetic of a divine spellcaster without the church bureaucracy of a cleric or the sword and honor baggage of a paladin is still wide open. The Invoker gave you the feeling of being the literal mouthpiece of creation, as you hurled divine energy without having to be a healer or a tank and just punish the wicked, because there ain't no rest for the wicked, and money don't grow on trees. I've got bills to pay and a mouth to feed, so let's do a perfectly segued ad read. Have you ever needed a
Hold on. While he's doing the ad read, I will view the ad read completely because I feel like it's only fair. Also, I'm liking this video, so because I am actually liking this video so far, so I'll leave a like. You guys leave a like too. Show him some love. Arlen Trick over here. This is the URL. This is the channel name. Go show him some love. And the thing is, he says that there is no invoker here, but I don't think you actually need multiclassing to play an invoker in 5e, because there is one subclass that maybe not exactly like an invoker but close enough, and it is just versatile enough, especially at later levels, that it might be worth it. It's versatile enough that you might be able to just get away with an invoker playstyle by just cherry picking your spells carefully. And that is Divine Soul Sorcerer. The thing about Divine Soul Sorcerer is, lore-wise, I'm pretty sure that is what the invoker is. Like, it's not a cleric. It's someone who just channels divine energy, not from one god, but just mouthpiece of divinity. That is what a divine soul sorcerer is kind of about. And the thing about the divine soul sorcerer is that you can pick spells from both the sorcerer and the cleric spell lists, which does give you a lot of versatility. I will suggest maybe splashing in a bit of either Archfey or Celestial Warlock in the mix as well, just to get a few extra abilities and invocations if you really think you need it. Actually, yeah, there are two things you might want here. I don't exactly know if the invoker has it. Someone who has actually played the invoker might be able to tell me better. But if you need even more versatility on this thing, you need Ritual Caster and combine it with 3 levels of Warlock to get Pact of the Tome and take the Book of Shadows invocation. Because combining Ritual Caster with Book of Shadows gives you even more versatility, and since you already have access to like both the sorcerer and the cleric spell lists, the Book of Shadows here combined with Ritual Caster will make for a lot of versatility in ritual casting department. So yeah, that is probably what you want to do if you want to play an invoker. Now let's do the ad read.
hand wrangling a sprawling fantasy world, or simply needed to remember which of these now forgotten D&D classes your players were actually playing as, then you need World Anvil, the ultimate RPG campaign manager. World Anvil gives game masters, writers, and storytellers an incredible suite of creative tools, including things like interactive maps, family trees, timelines, and automatic linking so your world feels alive. There's even a digital DM screen for D&D, Pathfinder, and over 106 different RPG systems, so who needs this? So why not build your novel, plan out your homebrew world, and manage your campaign all in one place? Join the 3 million other world builders already forging their legends at worldanvil.com. And hey, if you use the coupon code on screen right now, you get 51% off your annual subscription. And again, you can do all of that at worldanvil.com.
Oh, one more thing about Invoker. If you still need even more versatility after everything I described, consider looking into these 3 feeds. Don't take all 3 of them. That's going to give you too much bloat and you'll gimp yourself because you won't have the ASIs to support all of it, even as a variant human. But look into these 3 feeds to see if any of them can solve your versatility issue. Magic Initiate, Fey Touched, and Shadow Touched. So if the Divine Soul Sorcerer plus the Warlock plus a Book of the Tome plus Ritual Caster, Pact of the Tome plus Book of Shadows plus Ritual Caster does not give you enough versatility, then look into these 3 feats for even more versatility and even more grabbing extra spells that you might want.
Forge your world, wield your story. Alright, this next one still technically kind of exists. Well, sort of. In 5th edition, it got watered down significantly in the arcane trickster subclass of the rogue, but in 3.5 edition, the spell thief was so cool. It wasn't just a rogue with cantrips. Instead, it was an entire class built around the idea of stealing your enemy's magic and using it against them. Mechanically, the spell thief was the perfect combination of a rogue and an arcane caster. You still had your sneak attack, your trap finding, and all of your other rogues.
Excuse me. I am absolutely sorry. That cough, it caught up to me. I feel another one coming. Sorry. Anyway, where was I? Right. The spell thief. Hold on, I need to check something real quick. Okay. So spell thief, let's see.
Skills. But your real party trick was your class-defining feature, Steal Spell, which allowed you, when you landed a sneak attack on a spellcaster, to snatch away one of their prepared spells right out of their mind. The wizard's fireball? Gone. Fireball! The sorcerer's shield? It's yours now. It's like magical identity theft for extra style points. And as you leveled up, you got even trickier. You could steal ongoing spell effects, magical resistances, or spell-like abilities from monsters. It made combat feel much more like a chess match, where every turn was the opportunity to turn your opponent's power into your own advantage. And flavor-wise, the spell thief was the ultimate magical opportunist. And they were typically perceived as a street-smart arcane hustler who didn't study for years to get their abilities or sign away their soul to an eldritch being. Instead, you just figured out a way to pickpocket from the weave itself. And yes, the arcane trickster scratches part of that itch, but it doesn't quite capture the full effect of what made the spell thief so brilliant. Because the spell thief wasn't a rogue that learned magic. They stole it, repurposed it, and threw it back. Well, not like threw it back, but let's move right along. This video...
Yeah, no, sorry. I do not have any way to make this spell thief work without homebrew. The closest I can think of is like either a blade singer with some rogue multiclasses to get some skill monkey stuff going on, and focusing heavily on counter spell and dispel magic. But nah, I got nothing. I actually got nothing with this spell thief. Sorry.
Could very easily be retitled Things That 4th edition did right, because I'm very quickly learning it wasn't all that bad. Although it's very similar to the Paladin, the Avenger from 4th edition definitely deserves its own spotlight. This divine assassin served as a holy warrior who hunted down enemies of their faith with surgical precision. And if the Paladin is the shining knight, the Avenger is the shadow of divine wrath that follows closely behind. Mechanically, in the quirky and never used again combat roles of 4th edition, the Avenger was classified as a divine striker. Their signature feature was their Oath of Enmity, which allowed you to choose a specific target and gain advantage on all attack rolls against them.
Whoa.
It was all about picking your mark and pursuing that relentlessly until divine justice was done. And you weren't standing in the front line holding a shield, instead you snuck through the cracks and dealt with evil discreetly. What made the Avenger so compelling was its blend of stealth and faith. You weren't bound by heavy armor or clerical hierarchy. You were a divine hitman who took on the jobs that were too dirty or dangerous for the rest of the church. Lore-wise, they often operated outside of the temple walls, serving the will of their god through sorcery, cunning, and absolute conviction. The Oath of Vengeance Paladin definitely tries to capture this same aesthetic, but it's definitely not the same, as the Avenger was faster, lighter, and didn't care at all about honor, just the end result, enacting their god's will by any means necessary. And let's be honest, it's one of the coolest class names ever. Although I don't necessarily think this kind of Avenger would have made it into the Avengers because they're kind of f***ed up in a lot of ways. Often confused with a Scion.
So this is another one that I don't have that much to say about, because like this seems like a hard build to do. The closest I can come to is like some kind of a crit fishing build. Sorry. The one way I can see this working is you go 2 levels of Paladin to gain access to Divine Smite. Then you go 3 levels of Fighter to get it. What's it called again? Oh, that's right, Champion. Improved Critical. Either improved critical. Then you go the rest of your classes, rest of your levels into Rogue. Probably Arcane Trickster, so that you can use your Arcane Trickster spell slots as smite slots. That's basically. And the one feat you would want from this is Elven Accuracy. Yeah, you need to be an elf for that, or a half elf, but still, Elven Accuracy, because here's the thing. You use BA aim or use some other method to gain advantage, which you might be able to do using your Arcane Trickster spells. Maybe if you have like greater invisibility at high enough levels, that way. Or maybe there's like a Paladin thing you can do to get advantage. I don't know. The one thing I can think of is aim, even though it immobilizes you temporarily. Not an issue if you're a ranged build, but yeah, a ranged build might be good for this, but can also work for a blade build as well. So you would want Rogue, you would want Paladin, and you would want Champion Fighter, because here's the thing, Champion Fighters at 3rd level crit on net 19 or net 20. Then crit rate is normally at 10%. This thing boosts much higher up if you combo it with Elven Accuracy. And so the trick is you try to get a crit off of Elven Accuracy here. And when you do, you have multiple things working in your favor. You have sneak attack that's like doubled. Or you have Divine Smite, which you can upcast with your Arcane Trickster spell slots and like boost damage that way. And you are going to get more crits more often than not because of the net 19 crit combined with Elven Accuracy. You will need a exclusively dex-based weapon though, not exclusively dex-based weapon. You will need a finesse weapon though. I'm pretty sure you just need to be a melee attacker in order to benefit from smite, but you don't necessarily need to use strength. So yeah, that's the closest I can come to for an Avenger.
Ardent was a psionic philosopher.
Oh yeah, and background take Acolyte, and just play your character as like a devout paladin like rogue.
That channeled cosmic ideas and their own personal philosophies into psionic power. And this essentially meant that they could do things like inspire allies and punish foes with the power of their mind. Mechanically, they were considered charisma-based leaders in 4th edition, which blended elements of being a wizard and cleric while keeping a psionic twist. But you weren't just casting spells, you were applying cosmic logic as a weapon. Now, before we go too deep into psionics in general, we kind of have to acknowledge the Scion class. This class has appeared in almost every single edition of D&D, and with the not too recent Unearthed Arcana mentioning Scions, it's a real chance that they make their return in this edition. So because of that, we're not going to fully dive into that class because they're not forgotten. In fact, they're kind of on the cusp of a comeback, so just wanted to acknowledge that. It's just worth noting that psionic magic, as its own detached and standalone magical framework, has always had a place in D&D, and both the Ardent and Scion fit into that. Now, back to the Ardent. Mechanically, they're all about these things called mantles as compared to psionic spellcasting, which were essentially psionic philosophies that granted a selection of abilities. And from these mantles, you had at-will powers, which allowed you to do things like psychic strikes or utility effects, encounter powers for stronger attacks or debuffs, and deadly powers for larger game-changing effects. Some mantles allowed you to boost your allies with psychic inspiration, others focused on debuffing enemies, and a few allowed you to teleport or manipulate the battlefield through sheer will. Put everyone off a cliff! Unlike a traditional caster that relies on spell slots, the Ardent's power was more fluid, giving you tactical flexibility and allowing charisma to be at the central of your entire effectiveness. And depending on how you wanted to play, you could be in the front line, at a distance, or just supporting your allies from wherever they were. 5th edition and 5.5 edition have flirted with the ideas of psionics through their various subclasses, but they still haven't gone full hog like the Ardent and Scion. Full hog is probably not the right word to say it, but you kind of catch my drift. For players who wanted to feel like a psychic tactician and philosopher, the Ardent was the perfect representation of that. And I sincerely hope the recent Unearthed Arcanas are showing us that psionics are coming back and they're going to be bigger and better than ever. And there you have it, I guess. Multiple D&D class.
I'm starting to feel a bit sick, so I'm gonna cut this video short. But first I need to check something. I may have something for Ardent, someone who wants to play Ardent in 2014 without homebrew. Okay, I checked the rulings and this is what I came up with. This isn't 1-to-1. You are going to have to flavor your spellcasting as being psionics instead. Maybe you can ask your DM if they would allow you to use the variant ruling of spell points instead of spell slots. But other than that, this is the subclass and classes you want to look at. Again, I can't give you specifics here because I don't know much about the Ardent, but based on what I heard from this video alone, these are the two classes you want to look at. Clockwork Soul, Sorcerer, and Great Old One, Warlock. Maybe a multi-class of the two somehow. Because I feel like these two in combination together can make you feel like an Ardent. And I know the Coffee Lock is a busted build, a Reddit build or whatever, but splicing in some Coffee Lock abilities here might give you the extra versatility in the spell slot framework. Plus, Warlocks regain spell slots on a short rest, so there is that too. So yeah, that's my suggestion if you want to play an Ardent. Look into Clockwork Soul, Sorcerer, and Great Old One, Warlock.
That time, additions, and design choices have mostly forgotten. And although some of these concepts have trickled their way into modern editions, the standalone versions were always better. The more the merrier. You can never have too much of anything. Give us as many options as possible. Give us back to 1st edition when there were 600 classes and you're like, I'm playing someone that is just a dragon, not a dragon lord, I'm a dragon. As we've gone through this trip down memory lane and nostalgiaville together now, it's kind of reminded me that D&D has always been about creativity, imagination, exploration, and making your character feel distinct. So if you're feeling inspired or looking for a homebrew project to bring into modern editions of D&D, Why not bring one of these classes to your table if your GM's happy to let you try and piece them together and slot them into your game?
Well, that was an abrupt ending. But yeah, with that last thing about creativity, I hope I gave you some pointers on how to play these classes without needing to homebrew the shit out of them. But yeah, that was this video. So if you like my video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and or subscribe. Dislike it if you hated it. I'll heart your comment to let you know I read them. So just because I hated your comment doesn't mean I agree with it or endorse it. I'm rushing because I really want to get this video done before I start feeling even more sick. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.